All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Happy should be Wednesday. uh, Hope you all are doing well. I missed you all dearly. And hopefully things have been going well for all of you. So last class, we talked a lot about culture and customs, what exactly culture is, how culture can be defined, cultural boundaries. Then we talked about folkways, morals, laws, all of these different, customs and norms. And we talked about some of the different ways that cultures can differentiate around the world. Now, when it comes to culture, the biggest thing that you're going to see, the biggest kind of cultural thing you're going to see is religion. So we're going to start religion today. We should be able to get through what exactly religion is and then start 2 of our major 5 religions. And then tomorrow, which should be Thursday, we'll finish up with our last 3 major religions. And you guys are good to go for the test. Pretty easy, pretty quick unit. This should be a good one. So starting off on our notes here, if you're following along in your note guide or on Google Classroom on the slides, religion is going to have 3 main types of religion. Our first type of religion is going to be monotheistic. A monotheistic religion means that there's belief in only one God. You've only got one God. It's just one being or one figure. There are no other figures, right? So monotheistic religions could include Christianity, Islam, Judaism. Those are kind of our 3 big Abrahamic religions. We'll talk more about those later on. But a monotheistic religion, the basic breakdown you have is belief in one singular God. Now, on the flip side, polytheistic or polytheism means that there is belief in many gods. The one I always like to bring up is I always have students who are fans of Percy Jackson. And in Percy Jackson, they are descendants, all the kids are descendants of the ancient Greek gods like Zeus and Poseidon, so on and so forth. This would be a polytheistic religion. A polytheistic religion is going to be when you have many different gods that all kind of serve different purposes. In a monotheistic religion, that one God is going to serve every purpose, right? They're responsible for everything. Whereas polytheism, you're going to see duties divided up. So for example, going back to Greek mythology, Zeus was kind of the king of the gods, the god of the storms. Ares was the god of war. Hades was the god of the underworld. Poseidon was the god of the sea. You can see those responsibilities divided up, and that's what you see in a polytheistic religion. Our last religion is what we like to call animistic or traditional. This is a religion where there is no actual God. Instead, the divine forces are going to come from nature, right? These are going to be religions, very usually traditional or tribal religions. You'll see certain Native American religions follow these, Celtic religions, so on and so forth. We'll follow these animistic or traditional religion structures where things like the sun, things like different animals, the stars, trees, so on and so forth, the winds are all divine forces, and they all have different things. There's no God that is responsible for anything. All of these different pieces of nature instead have divine forces. So moving on to our first big religion. This is Hinduism. And Hinduism is one of the world's oldest religions, right? This is an extremely old religion. Today, it is concentrated on the Indian subcontinent. You'll find a lot of Hindi believers in kind of that area of South Asia. So we kind of talked about that of Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran. It's very concentrated on the Indian subcontinent. And the interesting thing about Hinduism is that people kind of have this debate or this classification where it can be considered both monotheistic and polytheistic. They have many forms of one God. as you can see over in the picture over there, all four of those forms are supposed to be the same God in a way. They have a divine spirit as well, which is the Brahman. And the last thing here is that caste system. So talking about that caste system, we'll talk about that more on the next slide. But the caste system is basically a division of where you are in society. The castes could be anywhere from nobility to military leadership to priesthood. Then you move down to market traders. You can move down to kind of common folk and all the way down to your lowest levels. So Hinduism key beliefs. The truth is eternal. Truth is eternal. Is kind of the major key belief that we're going to talk about here. The Vedas are the ultimate authority. The Vedas are Hindu scriptures. You could liken it, give it the same kind of feeling, if you want to write this down, as kind of a Torah or a Quran or a Bible. It's the same idea. These are the Hindu holy scriptures. Everyone should strive to achieve Dharma. And Dharma is this idea that really it's kind of hard for me to sum up in an English equivalent, but the best way I can describe it as is just doing everything right, doing everything the right way, the right conduct, righteousness, right moral law, right duty, just always living your life as right as possible. Another feature of Hinduism is that individual souls are immortal. And in this case, you have this thing called reincarnation. All right. And reincarnation, if you don't know, means that when you die, when your physical body dies, your soul will move to a new body. And this is where the caste system comes into place. Okay. The caste system says that this is your spot in society, and you move up and down the caste system based on how you acted, how close you were to achieving Dharma in your past life. If you led a good life, if you led a right life, you'll move up in the caste system. If you didn't, you'll move down. And the goal of the individual soul is moksha. Moksha is liberation, and this is liberation from the cycle of death and rebirth. You will no longer be reborn if you achieve moksha, or that liberation. Some holidays that we're going to talk about for Hinduism. We have Diwali, which is the festival of lights. This is also celebrated by Buddhists, and Diwali celebrates the victory of good over evil. Thank you, Michael Scott over there in the corner, for telling us happy Diwali. And then you also have Holi, which is the festival of colors and is also serving as the celebration of spring. So main things to remember from Hinduism, that caste system, Dharma, moksha, reincarnation, are holidays here of Diwali and Holi. Moving on to our second religion, the last one we'll cover today. This is Buddhism. And Buddhism is an offshoot of Hinduism. It's an offshoot of Hinduism founded by someone named the Buddha. The Buddha rejects the idea of the Hindu caste. Instead, Buddhism and Buddhists try to achieve this enlightened spiritual state called nirvana. Now, Buddha was not always called Buddha. His name originally is Siddhartha Gautama, and he was a royal prince. He was born, and his mother had kind of a vision almost that Siddhartha Gautama would go on to live 2 lives. If he stayed in the palace, he would become a great king. He would become a great ruler. If he left the palace, he would become a great teacher. Well, his dad, the king, did not want him to become the teacher. So he keeps Gautama locked up in the palace, and he gives him everything he could ever want. He wants for nothing, right? Anything he could ever desire is given to him. He gets a friend, and he has a best friend, and the best friend always comes over and plays in the palace with him. He gets the most beautiful woman to be his wife. He has kids, But then at about the age of, I believe it's 27, he starts to ask his friend, what's out there? What's out there? And his friend eventually gets him out of the palace, much to his father's dismay. And while he is out of the palace, he sees the poor. He sees a man in poverty begging for money and realizes that people are poor. People don't have things. He sees someone who is old and realizes people get old. No one around him has been old. I mean, maybe his parents have been aging a bit, but they don't look like they have been aging. Am I going to get old? He sees someone who's sick and realizes that people get sick. These are all things that we think, yes, this is common sense, but to him, this is a huge realization. So he sees someone who is old. He sees someone who is sick. He then sees a corpse. He sees a dead body and realizes that people will die. And the last thing he sees on his fourth trip out of the palace is he sees a monk. He sees someone meditating. They are old, they are dirty, they are poor, they have no money, but they are happy. And it's at this point that he realizes what he wants to do. And so he leaves the palace for good and goes off to become a monk and try and reach the state of enlightenment. And so he fasts under a tree. That's our top picture up there. He fasts under a tree, eating only 1 grain of rice and 1 drop of water a day, and still reaches nothing. And so he continues to meditate and meditate and meditate. And finally, he comes to these things that we call the 4 noble truths. And the 4 noble truths go a little something like this. The truth is suffering. Suffering happens, suffering exists, suffering is necessary. If everything was good all the time, we would not appreciate it, right? If everything was good all the time, if we wanted for nothing like he did in the palace, we wouldn't appreciate the things we have. So if suffering is necessary, if suffering exists, then where does it come from? Well, suffering comes from desire. You want something, you don't have it, so you suffer because you don't have it. You make yourself suffer until you have it. How do we get rid of this suffering? Well, we need to liberate ourselves from suffering by liberating ourselves from attachment. Those things we want are not important. If we believe them to be unimportant, then we won't suffer over them anymore. And how do we go about liberating ourselves from attachment? Well, he creates the 8-fold path to end suffering. And the 8-fold path is very similar to kind of Dharma, this idea of Dharma. It's doing everything the right way. There's 8 things that you do the right way, the right speech, the right acts, so on and so forth, doing things the right way, avoiding indulgence and self-punishment. Some holidays that we'll talk about for Buddhism is Vesak, which is the birthday of the Buddha, and it is celebrated on the first full moon day in May. And the other one is Loi Krathong, which is the festival of floating bowls, and it is meant to pay homage to the holy footprint of the Buddha on the Narmada River in India. That bottom picture is actually where the floating bowls, the floating bowls will go past. And this is supposedly the tree where he meditated and ate the 1 grain of rice and the 1 drop of water every single day. So that wraps up kind of our introduction to religion, types of religion, monotheism, polytheism, and animism, or traditional religions, and then starting our conversations about our 5 major religions that we're going to talk about with Hinduism and Buddhism. You've got the basics of both. You've got the key ideas. You've got the holidays. Next class, we'll get into these things that we call the Abrahamic religions. And we call them the Abrahamic religions because they all come from this guy named Abraham. And we're going to talk about Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. So hopefully you guys learned a little something today, and hopefully you guys enjoy the activity that has to go with this. Your map quiz today, Africa, hopefully that went well also. Really pulling for you guys. I'll have those grades in the grade book for you. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. I will see you guys soon.